Every leader, regardless of their sphere of influence, whether they manage a team, run a Fortune 500 company, or uh, even lead a household, eventually has to grapple with the hardest part of the job, the exit.
Hmm.
We spend so much time obsessed with the climb, but what does it actually mean to finish well?
It's the ultimate metric, isn't it? True success in leadership, and this is what the sources we've analyzed today are really getting at, is measured not by the fanfare of your beginning,
Right.
but by the substance of your ending. We're diving into material that provides a really clear framework for leadership longevity.
Our mission today is to cut through that short-term focus that just dominates modern business and political life.
Hmm.
We are seeking intentional impact, a legacy that, inspires forever.
Yeah.
The sources we're exploring take these foundational truths about human motivation, about accountability,
Hmm.
principles often drawn from ancient texts, and they structure them into practical, actionable strategies.
Then here is the core tension that I think we need to address right away. Most leaders, they fear failure, but the rare few, they fear something far more dangerous.
Which is,
Leaving behind a legacy they never intended. That fear of the unintentional, is what separates the faithful steward from the frantic achiever.
wow, that is a highly provocative starting point
It is.
because it suggests you can be successful on paper. I mean, hitting every metric, winning every accolade, and still have failed at the one thing that truly mattered.
Exactly. Failed at building something that endures.
It forces us to redefine success entirely.
It does. Which brings us to our first section. Challenging this leadership culture that prizes visibility, charisma, and crucially, rapid short-term wins. We are, as a society, kind of addicted to noise.
Okay, let's unpack this idea of noise. The source presents a powerful distinction here that really stuck with me. Success without legacy is noise without echo. What do they mean by that?
Well, noise is immediate, right? It's loud, it's fleeting, it's the applause right now, the quarterly earnings bump, the trending topic on social media.
The buzz.
The buzz, exactly. The sources argue that leadership that lacks that intentional focus is just motion without meaning. It burns really brightly for a moment, but it leaves no enduring warmth or light for the next generation.
That makes perfect sense when you look at how we measure ourselves.
Yeah.
The followers, the revenue targets, the awards, these things measure activity,
Just activity.
but they cannot measure eternity or even just long-term foundational impact.
And the authors argue that far too many leaders, and I quote, become successful at things that ultimately do not matter. This forces a shift away from what they call the strategy mindset and into the stewardship mindset.
Okay, let's define that tension clearly because this is where the actionable philosophy really begins. Strategy, as most of us practice it, asks a simple question. How do I lead effectively today?
Right.
It's focused entirely on immediate outcomes, and it builds influence. And that's important work.
Oh, it is. It's essential work, but it's incomplete. Stewardship asks a fundamentally different question. It asks, how do I lead faithfully for eternity? It's a fidelity focus. It focuses on obedience to a higher mission or core values, and it builds the legacy that transcends your personal tenure.
But why is that shift so incredibly hard for successful people?
Yeah.
I mean, you've already proven your competence using that strategy lens. Why would you pivot to stewardship, which sounds, much less certain and immediate?
Because strategy prioritizes the what are we achieving,
Hmm.
while stewardship prioritizes the how and the who. The leader operating purely on strategy is driven by personal accomplishment. They want to be remembered for the buildings they built or the records they broke.
The stewardship leader, by contrast, is focused on the transfer.
Precisely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, just look at historical figures. The sources contrast empire builders like Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar.
Correct.
They commanded armies, built these massive, iconic structures, pure accomplishment. But the sources note they left no spiritual or moral inheritance. Their empires crumbled.
And their influence just became history, a
The
story.
foreigning, perhaps.
And the contrast they draw is beautiful. Abraham. He built no armies, he founded no great city or empire in his lifetime, and yet
he was called the father of many nations.
that's the entire lesson of this section, isn't it?
It is. He was focused on what he was transferring, a covenant, a belief, an idea about relationship and fidelity, not what he was accomplishing for himself.
Legacy is what you transfer.
That's the line. If you want your influence to multiply, you have to stop focusing on the score and start focusing on the succession.
Okay, that foundational shift from sort of self-serving accomplishment to mission-focused transfer. That requires significant internal fortitude, which leads us right into section 2, where we look at the two essential internal components for making that transfer happen: integrity and endurance.
Yes, the bedrock of lasting influence.
And integrity has to be the starting point.
It has to be, because it's the currency of trust. The source material is unequivocal here. Integrity is the active defense against the temptation to sacrifice moral clarity for, short-term expediency.
That expediency being, what, cutting a corner maybe?
Cutting a corner, exaggerating a success, hiding a failure, things we see all the time.
And why does that choice corrode legacy?
Uh,
Because a fragmented, inconsistent record of integrity leaves a fragmented legacy. You lose trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The historical example of Nehemiah is crucial here. When he was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, he wasn't just managing a construction project.
No, not at all.
He was dealing with intense political opposition, internal corruption, economic injustice among his own people. His commitment to integrity meant confronting those injustices, refusing payment that was due to him, and stewarding resources transparently.
He wasn't just managing the walls. He was modeling principled leadership under pressure. He was building moral capital.
Which is far more valuable than the physical structures he was erecting. And this isn't a passive trait. The sources give us practical ways to cultivate this, like transparent accountability structures and regular self-examination. They even suggest using their specific integrity audit exercises.
An audit sounds rigorous. For the leader who is already stretched thin, how do they practically integrate an integrity audit without it feeling like another piece of administrative burden?
You have to reframe it. It's protection, not paperwork. The audit, as it's designed in the material, is less about checking off rules and more about checking your motives.
Ugh.
It forces you to look at recent decisions and ask, did I choose what was easiest or what was right? Did I prioritize the optics or the truth? It's a tool for self-correction before others have to step in.
That makes sense. Integrity is the shield. But you need to carry that shield for decades, which brings us to the second component, endurance.
Endurance is the hallmark of those who truly finish well. The sources constantly remind us that trials and setbacks, they aren't indicators of failure.
Right.
They are tests of character, not just competence.
When you look at history, you realize that any truly transformative legacy requires an absurd amount of endurance. The prime example the source uses is William Wilberforce.
Yes, and we need to dwell on his story for a moment to understand real endurance. Wilberforce wasn't just campaigning against a bad law. He was fighting the economic engine of the entire British Empire, the slave trade.
It's hard to even imagine.
He introduced his abolition bill to Parliament in 1791. It was defeated, year after year after year.
Think about that. Decades of setbacks, political defeats, personal health struggles, immense opposition from these powerful entrenched interests. He didn't see the final Abolition Act passed until 3 days before his death in 1833.
42 years.
42 years of focused, faithful perseverance.
His legacy, a transformed nation and economy, was not a function of rapid achievement. It was a function of simply refusing to quit the mission. And the sources emphasize that resilience is built not by grinding harder, but by pacing yourself. You need a rhythm of rest and renewal.
So this is where that endurance plan template they talk about comes in. It's not about working harder.
Not at all. It's about managing the energy and the perspective required for the marathon. The plan encourages leaders to reframe setbacks. So instead of viewing a major failure as a sign to quit, the plan helps you see it as refinement.
Refinement. I like that.
Every trial tests the character, strengthens the resolve, and prepares the leader for the next phase of the fight. Integrity and endurance, working together, ensure the leader stays on the path long enough to achieve the third phase.
Generational impact.
Generational impact.
So let's move to that. Section 3. This is the external impact. The source stresses that a leader's greatest achievement is often what they cultivate in others.
The people they send out.
Yes.
This is the principle of passing the baton. A legacy leader is not judged by the size of their own crowd, but by the strength of the next runners they prepared. Legacy requires successors, not spectators.
And we see this in the biblical model of Paul, with his investment in leaders like Timothy and Titus. This wasn't delegation. It was multiplication.
That's a great way to put it. He wasn't focused on immediate output. He was focused on expanding his influence exponentially through trusted others.
And to make this actionable, the source material pushes beyond just, mentoring. They provide practical tools like the mentorship map.
And intentional succession planning. The map forces a leader to identify who they're currently investing in, what skills they are teaching, and this is key, how they are preparing that person for the role that will supersede their own.
That's a crucial shift. The reflection exercises shouldn't be about transactional leadership. Did they complete the task? But relational leadership.
How much did this person grow this year?
Exactly.
And if you aren't intentionally growing your successor, you are unintentionally setting up the failure of your organization after you leave. This brings up the danger of the unintentional legacy.
Give us an example of that unintended legacy in action.
Well, contrast King Saul with King David. Saul started strong, but he neglected guidance, succumbed to paranoia, and focused on maintaining his own power.
Right, just holding on.
Holding on. Instead of stewarding the kingdom for the mission, he left a fractured, unstable legacy. David, despite his dramatic personal failures, dedicated his later years to repentance, reconciliation, and critically preparing his son, Solomon, for leadership.
Transferring the vision and the resources.
Yes, the focus was on the future of the kingdom, not the comfort of his final years.
That intentionality is the bridge to the final component of this framework, the eternal lens. This is where the source challenges us to align every major decision with a long-term, non-temporal perspective.
Yeah, the sources cite the encouragement to work as for the Lord and not for men. This challenges leaders to weigh short-term gains, say, a quick but ethically dubious acquisition against long-term character and community impact.
But practically speaking, how does a CEO weighing quarterly earnings against shareholder expectation realistically integrate an eternal lens into a Tuesday afternoon board meeting? It sounds highly abstract when you're staring at a spreadsheet.
It becomes a powerful filter, not just an abstract idea. When you're facing a complex decision, the eternal lens challenges you to ask 4 core questions right there at the table.
Okay, what are they?
1, does this decision cultivate character in myself and in my people? 2, does it strengthen the community we serve? 3, does it honor the mission or the values we claim to serve? And 4, does it inspire others toward genuine, selfless action?
That shifts the discussion from purely financial risk assessment to moral and mission risk assessment.
Exactly. And if the answer to those 4 questions is no, the short-term gain is simply not worth the long-term cost to the legacy. It filters out the noise of immediate applause and refocuses on the echo of enduring impact.
So let's wrap this up. Section 4. Let's outline the actionable steps and tools provided in the source material for the person listening who wants to start living this legacy today.
The book is structured around frameworks designed to force the shift from achievement to stewardship. The first tool is defining the end goal, the leadership eulogy.
Writing your own eulogy.
Basically, you write out exactly what you want people to say about your fidelity and your impact after you're gone. This prevents drifting.
That's a powerful mental exercise. It defines your finish line right now. What else?
You need to change the metrics you measure daily. That's the legacy scorecard. It requires you to grade yourself not just on revenue or efficiency, but on integrity maintenance, personal pacing, your endurance, and the growth of your top 3 mentees.
So your generational impact.
Your generational impact. It reframes success entirely. And finally, the source provides the 12-month Finish Well plan.
And what's that?
Which is the structured way to translate these lofty principles, integrity, endurance, mentorship, eternal lens, into daily manageable practices. It just holds you accountable to the shift.
The overarching theme then is this. The purpose of leadership is not merely to be remembered for what you accomplished,
but to be faithful to what you were called to steward.
And here's where the source truly summarizes the entire framework. It references the final words of Paul. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith.
Right.
His legacy wasn't built on his fame as a traveler or an orator.
Not at all. His legacy was built on the people he raised, the truth he guarded, and the faith he maintained until the very end. His impact continues to resonate not because of his accomplishments, but because he successfully executed the transfer of his vision.
That brings us to the synthesis of this deep dive. We've seen that this intentional leadership framework requires trading the frantic striving of strategy for the faithful stewardship of legacy.
Built on those 4 pillars.
Integrity, endurance, generational mentorship, and the eternal perspective.
And the final provocation the source offers, which is really worth mulling over long after this deep dive concludes, is the simple truth. You are called to lead in a way that outlives you. The book challenges us to internalize that filter and ask in every single decision, what am I building that heaven will celebrate, not just people?
That question requires a deep level of humility and intentionality. It's a call to look beyond the immediate moment and apply the principles of intentional stewardship in your own leadership sphere starting today. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into cultivating an enduring legacy.